Good afternoon once again. Lyndall here with Marshfield Old School Times, coming to you from the national and international headquarters here of the Marshfield Old School Times. Since I have judges with me, I thought I'd throw that in there. It's kind of a big deal to me today. So we are honored to have two special guests in with us today. Webster County's two associate judges, Judge Justin Evans, welcome,
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good to be
and
here.
and Webster County's newest associate judge, Cynthia Black, welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're just tickled to death to get them both in here and talk a little bit about what they do, and maybe the citizens of Webster County and Marshfield can get to know them just a little bit better. Before we do that, I want to mention today is Veterans Weekend. It's a big weekend here in Marshfield. We have a parade coming up at 2 o'clock, so we're gonna try to get out of here right at 2 o'clock so we can get over there and watch the parade. But we do thank all veterans, including Judge Evans, for your service.
Thank you.
And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. Um, I know there's a lunch going on over at the Masonic Lodge, I believe, for veterans. So I'm sure you can still get over there and partake of that still this afternoon. But with that, we have Mr. Producer Logan Fraker over here behind the computer. And we'll get started. We got a lot to talk about today in just 1 hour. So to start out, we always want to ask, and Judge Evans, we'll go with you first today. We always kind of ask when you came to America.
Well, 1980.
There you go.
I was brought kicking and screaming into this world, Marshfield.
Yeah, talk a little about your family and all that.
My mom's Iwana Evans. She's from here. My dad's a Springfield guy, Terry Evans, and I was, like I said, born in 1980, as my mother will tell you, the very hottest summer in the history of hot summers. And we lived in Springfield first couple of years of my life, but my grandparents owned property down here that we moved on to. So I went to school at Marshfield from kindergarten all the way through graduation.
All 13 years.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, this is home to me, and my parents still live at that same spot right down around the corner from the courthouse at Massey Park. And then I'm hop, skip, and jump away from them in my grandparents' old house. So
right. And your mother, I think, probably spent 13 years at Marshfield as well.
She did.
She? I
Yeah,
think so.
she went here all the way through.
She and I were in the same class together, and I certainly have fond memories of Iwana, and as such a good person, and she was a good friend in school and good student, best I recall.
She's an exceedingly intelligent woman. She is exceedingly intelligent. And she has very gentle. Anybody that knows her, and a lot of people do. She's most of the time, when I'm my mellowest version of myself and I'm at my most level, I attribute that to my mom. But yeah,
I can see
good people.
You bet. And your dad, I know he does a lot of furniture finishing.
My dad does a lot of it. I mean, he is one of the most handy human beings you would ever meet. He does woodworking, but he doesn't just do woodworking. He's kind of at a spot in his technical career where he finds old 200-year-old, and I'm not joking, I mean old colonial furniture that will look like a pile of boards. He'll recognize it for what it is and restore it with original parts usually.
Sure.
or
he's really
period accurate.
Yeah.
So he gets old, I mean, stuff that just unsalvageable, not antique store reselling, and he will make it look like the day that it was originally made. I've seen colonial era stuff come through, old barristers' cabinets. He's the before there was a recliner, there were these old colonial type chairs that you pulled them out. He recently got one and brought it, back to it's just, you don't even know where you'd find the parts for it or how you would template it back together. And he can visualize.
He's an artist.
He is. Yeah. He can visualize
right.
How something is supposed to fit together and how the mechanics of it work, and then go find all the pieces and make it work again.
Yeah.
He's an amazingly talented human being.
And I suppose you could say this is sort of his second career or his retired career, because he did
His
have a career right prior
he
to that.
he retired. So my dad worked. He worked out at the Federal Medical Center and did a full career out there.
Yeah.
And then he worked over at the U.S. Attorney's office. He was their security guy, and he retired. And now he is, he's done his side business of woodworking.
Yeah.
That guy would work. He'd come home and get home from work and immediately start working. I mean, he'd put in a full shift at a wood shop. We have a wood shop that's, huge. It's as big as a lot of small homes, and that's, he used to make stuff kind of on an industrial sort of scale. He'd make rocking horses and things like that, just hundreds.
Yeah.
And now it's, one piece at a time.
Yeah.
It's it's artistry rather than a business. It was a huge supplemental income for us when we were young, and now it's an art and a hobby. But yeah, sorry, I'm talking to you.
No, you're good. And then you have a sister.
Yes, my sister she's a major in the Army.
Major, okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
She's my sister and I have been in an academics arms race for a long time, but she is so accomplished. She is attached to a special forces unit.
Wow.
She is a veterinarian. Among her many academic achievements, she is a veterinarian.
Does she practice in the military?
Yes. And so special forces, and I don't want to misstate any of what she does. But the long and short of it is special forces in the Army, they have a mission. A lot of their mission is to befriend folks in more rural areas and places where we may be in conflict. Green Berets, that has been their historical mission, is to be out in very rural areas where they can meet the local population, make the, hey, by the way, when get us, sort of thing.
So
and
she is a Green Beret.
No, she is not. That's why I'm being careful about how I say it. She is attached to them, and here's the
gotcha.
The preceding explanation is because the best way to ingratiate yourself to folks that are literally in tribal sorts of villages, all spread out, very distant from what we would think of as modern amenities. The best way to befriend them is you help them with their livestock. Yeah. Keep their livestock alive. Help them, show them how to do that. Show them how to run more modern sorts of sanitation protocols so that they're not sick. They don't have an idea of how to do that anyway, but it's
a way to befriend them.
It is, bringing some of that, knowledge to these folks is certainly, and I mean, I joke about it, but that's historically what it's been. Hey, when the communists show up, you need to be a pro-American village. That has historically been how the special forces have, in the Army, have operated in those places. And so she attaches to them. She is, and I don't want to minimize, her training. She does a lot of the same training that she has done. I mean, she went through the combat training required for you to actually be placed with a special forces unit. The washout rate is like 90%, because you have a doctor, but you also have to be somebody that is capable of jumping out of an airplane and traveling with a special forces unit to be where they need to be. So you can't wash out. And Wendy has always been an athlete. She has always been, top of the academic food chain, and she's a top end athlete.
Very accomplished.
She's very, very accomplished, and I suspect she'll do 20. I suspect she'll go places and do, I think she made major very quick, and I suspect she'll get full wings before it's all done.
That would be awesome.
Anyway, cool. I promise not to jabber as I do. Jabbering as I do. So
well, it's great. No, this is.
But that's my family. Those
your family.
Those are the people that I'm proud of, and the kind of people that make me who I am. So.
Right, and your parents, I know, would very proud of both you and Wendy for your accomplishments, for sure. Well, Cynthia, let's start. Or I should say, Judge Black. I've got to say, I got to get in that routine. Why don't you talk a little bit about your life a little bit, your biography, and growing up, and
before I do that,
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell Wendy, Judge Evans' sister, good job. I've known Wendy since she was a kid. She's about my oldest daughter's age, and they went to school together here in Marshfield. So I want to tell Wendy I'm super proud of her. Girl power. Yeah. Started Bradleyville.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't know that.
so
Yeah,
way
that's
back
why we
when.
do this show.
Yes. So way back when, in the Great Depression, my grandmother and my grandfather, who my grandfather was a Bradley, had to leave this area and they went to Western Kansas to work. And so in the farming community. So they left during that time period. And then later, my dad was born then in Western Kansas. I was born in Western Kansas in a little town called Kinsley, Kansas. And then when I was in elementary school, we came back to Missouri.
I see. Your mom was from out there too?
Yes, my mom's from Western
Yeah,
Kansas.
okay.
Yes. My mom is actually the oldest of 11 kids.
Wow.
Farming community. All of her siblings stayed in that area. There's a couple, well, one other that strayed a little bit, but they are very proud of my family. They are amazing farmers. It's something very different than what I've known. Hardworking people. I mean,
Yeah.
you never get a vacation. You work from sun up to sundown, and longer, to be
Right.
honest with you. So I
Your
really,
grandmother lived to be,
yes, 96. My
96, yeah.
grandmother and my grandfather
Yeah.
lived to be
and
96.
she just passed not too many years ago.
Yeah,
right?
she did.
Yeah,
And I remember when I went out there for my grandfather's 90th birthday, and when we pulled in the driveway, my grandfather was out in the middle of the road trying to chase cows back into the field
Yeah.
at 90 years old. So
Yeah.
that kind of lifestyle you'll live long with that kind of lifestyle for sure.
Absolutely. So you came back to Springfield,
Yeah,
and
we
that's
came
where
back
you
to Springfield.
started school and
Yeah,
went to school and all that.
and I went to junior high at Cherokee, and then I graduated high school from Kickapoo.
Right.
I've been on the show once before and talked about how I had the opportunity to graduate with the very famous Brad Pitt.
Right. Yeah.
And actually, there's a few people who have been famous from Kickapoo High School. Obviously, it was
early
a very
80
good
era.
Yeah, it was a very good school back then. So I graduated in '84 from Kickapoo.
Yeah. So growing up in Springfield, you went to high school. Was there anything that's impactful that you can think of? You know, is there anything that really impacted your life that maybe gave you the reason that you want to get into law or to help people the way you have over the years? I know you've helped a lot of victim people that have had trauma and victim issues and so forth. Is there something that growing up that touched you in that way, or did that come later, like in college or whatever?
Well, it's interesting. Since I almost knew I wanted to be a lawyer since I was very, very young. And I did that because I always wanted to defend people. I wanted to help people. I wanted, in my life, when I encountered people who couldn't defend themselves, I would always jump in front of them and be their spokesperson. So, and I was very involved. Thankful to my parents. They must have had to run me everywhere. But junior achievement, when I was in high school, I was the area president for junior achievement. And that was a program where kids started their own businesses. And I was in the French Club and the Latin Club and Liberty and Law Club. I was in numerous clubs that really, I was just very involved in high school. I mean, I was an athlete. I say what I did in high school, I was an athlete. I was a debater.
Yeah,
so that's the kind of,
yeah.
of athletics I did.
That
And
was your
so,
skill set.
yes, right. So,
Yeah.
So I just have always been interested in the law. I'm not even sure why, but
Yeah.
Since I was very young.
But you're where you need to be, or you should be.
Yeah, truth and justice and
Yeah.
fair, and argued just all the time with my parents about everything that they did, how
Good
it
training for
needed to
later in
be
life.
fair.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Justin, how about you growing up?
There's a lot of similarities there, and I mean, Cynthia and I've talked about this before. I kind of wonder if we had been closer together in years academically, whether or not we might have ended up mortal enemies.
Or
Because
partners, or business
yeah,
partners. One of
but
the-
both.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the cycle of a
Yeah.
lot of things is that
Uh,
you end up mortal enemies and then best friends with a lot of people
Right,
anyway.
right.
But no, I knew early on. I mean, I mean, in my grandparents' living room, I have the recollection of asking questions about what it was to be a lawyer. I used to watch Lee Robbins, my grandpa, if you
Yeah.
know him, and
Yeah.
I used to watch Matlock with him, and
Mhm.
and I remember coming to the conclusion. I was a kid that stayed up and watched election results and things like that, and I remember being fascinated with the law, not with being politics. I never,
Yeah.
no interest, but interested in how that all happened and interested in the law. Highly competitive, and I enjoyed academic competition.
Yeah.
I enjoyed sparring with people. There wasn't much that I couldn't do. If I set my mind to something, to an argument, I was going to be it's going to be fierce opposition even when I was young, and so I liked that. I mean, I had an interest in it. And it drew me. I had an interest in the justice system. I just did. I mean, academically, that was the course I took, and yeah, I knew early.
Yeah.
I knew early. I enjoyed the process of seeing how laws got made. I enjoyed the process of seeing, what the real world practical impacts of the law were. And I probably, I say probably third grade, fourth
Yeah.
grade that I started talking about being a lawyer. I know it was before I got to fifth grade because my teacher back then had left a note about the fact that I was well on my way to being
Is that right?
argumentative.
She saw that in you.
Argumentative young man.
Uh-huh.
It might have been a barbed compliment of some sort, but I remember the note. So yeah,
We had Chuck,
I-
Judge Replogle on last week, of course.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't
we
know
did.
he'd
Yeah,
come on.
yeah. And it was interesting because you both knew early on kind of that direction of truth, justice, and the American way, or whatever. And I think he did too, but in a little different way. He indicated that he wanted to be like an FBI agent.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
certainly the similarities and the fact that you wanted, defend the country or defend the law and whatever, justice, uphold justice. And then he, I think college years, he kind of realized he moved over to the more toward the law side. But I think it's interesting. I'd say there's probably an uh, inherent, something in you that you wanted to go that direction in most all of you.
Yeah.
Being an attorney is not something everybody can do, and it takes someone that would have to have that skill set from, from birth. So
You have to.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. I think most people can.
Yeah.
You have to. There are certain, like any job, you got to have
Yeah.
a core set of aptitudes, but
Yeah.
there are aptitudes that,
Yeah.
if you want it, that is the principal thing that will get you there, is wanting it.
That's true.
Well enough.
Yeah.
And Chuck, Judge Replogle, sorry,
Mhm.
his interest in, law, all the way through law school. I had no intention of coming back here to do this. I had an intention of going into federal law enforcement or the military side of law, or going to DC and working in a federal agency that was law enforcement oriented.
Right.
I mean, my resume was built for that.
Right.
It was not built for private practice or to become, to do this.
Local judge.
Yeah.
What about your military service? So did you make that decision before college or after?
No, I say that. I don't know. I
You
always
joined after then?
So I joined right after high school.
After high school,
I was
okay.
19.
I got you. Okay.
And So I mean, there was a gap there, but I joined right after. But I always had an interest in
Mhm.
military service.
Yeah.
You know, things that were more on the action oriented side of public service appeal to me,
There you go.
and still do. I mean, that's the I like the things that other people kind of wince at.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Sure.
bother me.
So did you
I'm,
start?
I am attracted to the sorts of
Yeah.
situations and things that other people might not be.
Sure. Did you start
Um,
college after the military? Then.
I did. I didn't do very well. I was not ready. I jumped right out, and so I did a semester of school, and I withdrew. I wasn't. I was not. I did not have the life organization skills at that point in time to learn to pay rent and learn to have a job and learn to get to class. And so I withdrew and immediately turned around and went and signed up with the National Guard.
I see.
But I signed up for active duty Air Force shortly thereafter, because as soon as 9/11 happened, I signed up. I want to say it was, should remember the date. It was 14 or 15 days later
Wow.
that I went active duty. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I went immediately because at the time, structurally, the military moved a lot of people between branches at that time, because non-wartime military
Sure.
doesn't fill their positions the same way. Anyway, this is boring. The
Yeah.
long and short of it is, inter-service movement was a thing.
Yeah.
Because they needed to get people that had technical scores where they could now sub in to work on more technical programs. Well, you don't have that many warm bodies for it in peacetime, and we were in wartime.
Yeah.
Immediately. And
Yeah.
9/11 hit, and they changed the whole slate of
Sure.
who they needed and where they needed them. And so anybody who had the aptitude to go to this job, or this job, they would say, hey, do you want to be, Marine Corps? Do you want to be Army? Do you want to be Navy? Based on where they needed people. And they facilitated those inter-service transfers. So 14, 15 days after 9/11, I was active duty.
Yeah.
And then I stayed active for 4 years.
4 years.
Back and wrapped out.
Did you go over there? Did you?
Yeah, I went. I didn't do anything of any substance. I mean, I went, and I was a warm body on it.
Yeah, but you were there.
I was a warm body at BIOP, Baghdad International, when they were rebuilding it. When they were getting it operational. And we lived in, you live in Tent City over there, but I mean, mortar attacks and things like that happened, but nothing of substance.
Sure. Well, it's all.
But
it's all important.
But yeah, that's it. Long and short of it is the more defense oriented or law enforcement oriented sort of law was what I wanted to do.
So you got out of there, and then did you already have your undergrad or not?
No, I came back and I came back and did that. And
so you had a long road ahead of you after that, didn't you? To get
I did.
a lot
Academics at that point, it's funny. I was just not responsible. I mean, I was young, and I right out of high school, I'm so irresponsible. And I'm sure my parents.
But after the military, you were.
No, I was top of the class.
Yeah,
sort of.
That's what I was expecting.
And I was so competitive at that point that I got my dad's work ethic, and I'm grateful to him for that.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite kick in until after I got out of the service. But at that point, I'd work a full-time job. I'd work, full-time job, take a full load of classes, get all A's. And I mean, sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not.
No,
I'm saying the connection between a kid that could barely make it to a haircut and to a part-time job and to get to his part-time course load and still not thriving.
Yeah.
Sure. So the point is not the look how good I did. It's the comparison of, it's a timing thing. And I could make my bed and get up and go where I needed to go and do what I had to do. And I did very well in law school. I did very well in undergrad. And I did well in large part because of the work ethic that I got from my father, but also the
discipline training in the military.
The military kind of brought a lot of those points my dad had been making together.
Yeah.
It's like, my dad might have been spot on about some of my deficiencies in terms of motivation, and the military will motivate you.
That's right.
And it influences how I run my courtroom. It influences how I'm highly I'm very, very, very driven to, we have an X goal, and we're going to do things on a timetable, and it's going to be, the gears are going to turn. And it's influenced, it made me a capable business owner. It made me responsible in how I, ran my practice and ultimately run a courtroom.
Absolutely. So where did you get your law degree then?
Mizzou.
In
I
Mizzou.
wanted to go to
Okay.
Mizzou.
Did you do the undergrad there too?
No, I went to Missouri State.
Missouri State, and then okay.
So I went to Mizzou, and I loved it. It's a great place to be.
What year did you graduate there?
2012.
In
I'm
12.
sorry, 2015.
15.
Yeah, so
Then
10 years.
Then where did you start your first company?
County prosecutor's office. Stayed there right under less than a year.
Okay.
I had interned there during my summers, summer in law school, and then I stayed there less than a year. And it, great people up there. Todd Myers is one of our judges up in county right now. I think the world of him, but I was not at a spot in my life where I was probably past I was time for me to go ahead and start creating my own sense of order in the world, and working for somebody else was not going to be the thing.
Yeah.
And the only reason I went to Greene County was because I kind of lost my way with regard to, I got back here, and I was teed up for a federal career. I was teed up to move into DC or move into one of the federal hubs to work. None of those are close to Springfield. None of those are close to Marshfield. And my parents, things change. You look at things differently, and you do come back and your parents look older than the last time you saw them, and that's a kick in the gut.
Yeah.
And I evaluated things and looked at it and did not want to start a new life in a city, which is what you have to do,
right,
if you want to climb that federal ladder. And so, men plan and God laughs. I had no interest in being a private practitioner, no interest in it at all. I scoffed at the notion of it. But I also, no offense to Greene County, but I made less money there than I made waiting tables and bartending.
Yeah.
And it was hard to see climbing through that, and it just wasn't where I wanted to be.
Right.
And so I went out into private practice mostly because I had no other plan.
Did you have a little?
It was a matter of necessity that I wanted to do something, but my whole plan had been based on federal service or military service, and that went away.
Did you have a little more of a feeling that you wanted to defend more than prosecute?
No,
you didn't have. No. It wasn't like
I am, in terms of the, it's hard for the public to understand. The conversation you'll always have. Cynthia's had this probably a million times. I could never do that.
Yeah.
I could never defend somebody. Yes, you could if you understood the necessity of what we're doing.
Right.
A good criminal defense practitioner is the reason that the law enforcement does things in an ethical way, because they enforce the rules. You can't reap the fruits of not following the rules as law enforcement. So many of my friends are law enforcement. I'm super, on very good terms with them. Absolutely. I have a lot of libertarian leanings. I stare at your Reagan Bush 84 up there, and that's where the core foundation of my political ideology lies.
Yeah.
With Reagan,
right?
The government has to be constrained to their limited, narrow role, and if the government will follow the rules, it's not the kind of country I want to be.
Right.
And that's why, it's super important to me that defendants, they may well have done something that they shouldn't have done. They need to know what the rights are. They need to fully understand them. They need to be well defended. As a practical matter, I don't have any kind of preference for what kind of law I practice, because I like the sport of law. There's times to bring the olive branch, and then there's times to beat somebody with the olive branch, and whatever personality traits you've got in law, you make use of those and do well. So no, I don't gravitate towards any particular thing. I gravitated when you start out, you gravitate towards however you're going to make a living.
Whatever your job is,
And
yeah.
we did well. We were, you know, we put it together and I worked hard and we were very successful at what we did.
Sure.
But no, I mean, you be picky about the people that you represent people where you care about what they've got. And if you're successful enough, you can pick the cases you want to take anyway.
And uphold the Constitution.
Yeah, and uphold the Constitution. Follow the law.
Right, follow the law.
It's
How about for you?
So
after high school.
I want to say, God is good, and I'm grateful, and I know that Webster County is benefiting because both of these gentlemen, Judge Replogle and Judge Evans, had other ideas about what they wanted to do. But quite honestly, they are two very well suited people to be judges.
Right.
Chuck has he just has a ton of common sense. He has a great demeanor. He's extremely intelligent. And likewise with Judge Justin Evans, he gets people and he gets through to people.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a gift for him. So I think our community is very fortunate to have both of them as judges.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity of going to MSU, which was SMSU then. I went there for 3.5 years and graduated. And then I went to law school at Mizzou in Columbia.
She didn't fail any of her classes her first semester.
No, I know that.
My first semester was 4.0.
Yes.
Hey,
we know that.
We all know that intuitively. We all knew that.
The only one that could have possibly outscored her, but he was not in her class, he was older, would have been her husband.
Yeah.
He possibly could have, but maybe not.
Yes. Well, my husband is absolutely brilliant and very, very smart. And I do not pretend to be as smart as he is. However, I did do better in law school.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good to know. Let's put that one in our back pocket. I may need to pull that out sometime.
That's useful.
Yeah,
that's useful information.
He will tell you he was working also nearly a full-time job and had other things going on. I loved law school. He wasn't as excited about law school as I was. So
you pretty much always, like you said, as a little girl, you knew you wanted to be a lawyer, and quite frankly, probably knew that you wanted to be a judge someday.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, yes.
That's just where you have been.
Yes, and I think it's all in God's time.
Yeah, it is.
Because I've had the opportunity to represent a lot of really good people in our community, and I think I've really helped some people, helped to guide them and direct them.
No doubt.
And I'm really appreciative of having that opportunity. And but now I'm loving what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only done it for 1 week.
For 1 week.
That's what I was about to say.
Let's back up now. So when you were representing people, and you've had a 30-year practice in Marshfield? Is that hard to believe? 30 years.
Yeah.
I remember when she started. I remember. Oh, because I mean, I just remember when you opened that shop. Yeah. I was still in high school.
Yeah. So, what cases, without mentioning names, unless you can, but what have you been involved in that's really been significant or really stuck out in your mind that you feel really good about, whether it was representing a victim or representing, I don't know, is there something that just in
right,
kind of at the top of your 2 or 3 cases?
Go ahead.
Can I step in?
Yeah, absolutely.
She was a prosecutor. I was a victim. Pretty serious case. She is absolutely 100% one of the only reasons I was able to get through my military. Well, without going too far into the story, she represented me at a time where, I mean, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Didn't represent me, represented the interests of the state, but she prosecuted hard enough that, and she probably didn't remember the case at all at the time. Afterward, it's one of many. I look at it and I know what it was, but she's absolutely the reason I was able to continue my military service and do the things I needed to do. Yeah. So I don't know if that case is very important to her, but my point would be,
just to you.
Sure was to me. She was a good prosecutor.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well,
so back to you. Sorry, but
yes. And when I
That's
was,
it made a huge difference
Big impact.
to me.
and part of my that's why I love doing what I do, honestly, because the case may not have been important to me, but I guarantee you that Justin Evans was important to me. My every case, it has a case number, but it's not a case number. It's people. It's a family, and I know that's how Judge Evans looks at it too. I mean, we're dealing with, we're trying to improve people's lives. We're trying to help people. We're trying to right wrongs.
Just to allow justice to prevail.
Yes,
I mean,
right. Justice, justice.
Yeah.
And but stories like that, most of the things that pop into my head over my long career are those cases where I've been able to help families and kids particularly. I always say kids, old people, and animals.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the people that cannot protect themselves, and so those are the people that I probably most vehemently want to protect, are the groups of people that can't protect themselves. But I was involved in cases. One of the cases that it, there was, these people came to me, and they were an aunt and uncle who lived in our community, and they had gone to many lawyers before, and many lawyers before had given them no hope in getting custody of children who were being abused and who were living a horrific life. And when they came to me, I looked at them. I said, "This can't be. I mean, we just can't. We have to fight. I can't guarantee a result, but we have to fight." And then so they got custody of one of these children who turned out to be, I mean, he graduated from college and is a successful businessman. So that's it. That kind of stuff is important to me. I was involved in a case involving legal aid where a friend of mine called and said, we have this case. I have a new lawyer and he's in a little over his head. Do you think you can step in and help him? We've got these lawyers from Kansas City that are coming down to help this, or St. Louis, one of them, to help this guy, and he's definitely outgunned. So can you help? Well, it turned out that that was a case where people were being trafficked, where women were being trafficked.
Man, yeah.
And one of the women that was being trafficked, she had been living in this house where they refused to give her stuff back, and it was in the middle of nowhere in Laclede County.
Wow.
And I probably am braver than I am smart, so I put her in my car. I took my paralegal with me. I got my gun and I made my paralegal drive. And I told my trooper friend, Mike Carey, I said, if I don't come back, this is where I'm going. And so I went to this person's house, who later would be charged and convicted of multiple felony crimes. And I banged on the door and said, I'm here to get her stuff. Open the door and they called the police on me. They called the Laclede County Sheriff's Department on me. But anyway, on that day, we got her stuff. We got a carload of stuff. I'm thankful that I got to come home from that event. My paralegal said, never again.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, federal agents were at our office and asking for my paralegal to drive them to the location where it was, because they couldn't find it. It's in the middle of nowhere. So she had to drive the federal agents. That's a story that makes me feel really good.
Absolutely.
I mean, we got traffickers off the street.
Sure.
And the main operator there was in being held in the Kansas City in a federal institution, and he was putting death threats. He was sending death threats for people to kill other people. And so I'm not sure how I even got involved in that. I mean, I look back at, like, I don't even know, but I was able to help
You felt good about helping this
I
lady,
did,
'cause
and
it was kind of a big,
yes, and the male attorney
bad situation.
from legal aid, who I just love, he's like, he wasn't willing to go out there, probably
Well,
couldn't, because he had an employer, but he wanted nothing to do
Yeah.
with it.
A
So
word of advice to any new attorney listening to this, though: don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's all.
well, my emotions were running high, because I didn't like the way this girl had been treated.
Right.
Literally, she was a runaway, and then she signed a contract that she wouldn't leave, and she thought she was bound by this contract,
Yeah.
and she ended up being life flighted and sent to the hospital in Springfield, and that's how we became aware of what was going on in that situation. So yes.
Do you think, you mentioned a little bit earlier about woman power. We talked about
Yes.
Justin's brother or sister, Wendy. And do you think, as being a woman and with a 30-year practice of representing a lot of women, I mean, let's face it, in divorces and so forth, I mean, that has to give you kind of an edge. I mean, you have to understand the victims in those situations maybe just a little bit better than I might, or someone that doesn't have that kind of emotional attachment to being a woman. I would think that makes you a really
I think
passionate representative for that.
yes, we
in the
capitalize
in the
on what we
courts.
have, and
Yeah.
I think
Right.
that is something
Right.
I have had. And interestingly enough, I was the first woman. I'm very proud of this. The
Mhm.
first woman in Webster County to open an office, right? To have a practice in
First
Webster County.
female member of the Webster County Bar,
Yeah.
weren't you?
Yes, I was.
And the first prosecutor.
Yes,
woman
and I was the
prosecutor,
first female prosecutor, and now I'm the first
judge.
female
Right.
associate circuit judge. So
And again, it is sort of a glass ceiling. I mean, even though that ceiling has been broken many times in many areas, as far as being a judge in Webster County, you broke a ceiling.
right,
I mean,
and
and not saying that there could
And a
have been someone
prosecutor.
else. Yeah, and as prosecutor as well.
and I'll tell you, I get law enforcement all the time tells me, they still tell me, thank you for being such a good prosecutor.
Yeah.
Thank you for being such an aggressive and good prosecutor.
Yeah.
I run into business people all over our county who remember me as a prosecutor because I prosecuted bad checks.
Right. Absolutely.
And my family owned a business, and so if you write a business a bad check, that in my mind, that's stealing.
Yeah.
Well,
it is,
and
because
I
it is stealing.
I don't want to get too deep
Yeah,
into that,
right,
but I was
yes.
running the Walmart store when you got elected prosecutor,
Yes.
and I can tell you, the collections on bad checks were in a disarray prior to your tenure in there, and I'm just telling
Yes.
you, because I can tell you stories about issues we had even out there in trying to get checks collected, and you came in and you cleaned it up. You set up a new system. You did something there to help the businesses and merchants of Webster County.
Yes.
And I'm a witness to that because I was included in the help that you got with Walmart. But,
And there are a lot of small businesses out there that one bad check can really
Yeah.
create a very bad month for them.
absolutely, yeah. You're not going to believe this. It's like 10 minutes until this is over. See how fast
Well,
it goes?
it
Isn't
does
great?
go
We're
quick.
having a
But
lot of fun.
we touched on your family. Touch a little bit on your family, Cynthia. You just mentioned, of course, we all know John Black, our state representative, but you've got
Yeah,
six girls. Yeah.
John and I have 6 girls together, and I'm grateful to have all girls. I
Woman power.
Yeah, well, and it's funny. My we have 6 girls. Our oldest daughter had 3 girls,
Mhm.
and then my daughter had another girl,
Mhm.
and so finally we had a boy.
Finally.
Finally we had a boy. So we have a 9-year-old grandson that
I'm going over to hang out with him.
Yes,
this
yes,
morning.
yes, yes. We've been at a basketball game
Oh,
this
yeah,
morning, and
yeah.
he's at the office right now. So
I
he's
see.
going to go to the Veterans Parade too
Okay,
with
good.
us.
Good,
So
good,
yeah.
good,
So I'm fortunate to have a boy. It's
Yeah.
very different.
good.
But
Yes, yes. Well, what do you guys see? I know we talked with Judge Replogle last week about the drug court, and I know you've been involved in the drug court since its inception, and yeah, I'm sure you.
I had a limited role. I was
Yeah.
there. I was defense attorney on it for 2 years.
Yeah,
I
well,
think.
that's you've
But
been
I mean-
played a part. But tell me what you think about that, Chuck. You know, we talked about the success rate and just how many
Well,
people it's helped. And he even
veterans,
mentioned,
Yeah.
Veterans Day. I
Mention
kinda
the
like it.
Veterans Court. Yes.
oh, okay,
Yeah. Talk
So
about
here's,
yeah,
sorry to commandeer your
no,
question there,
this
but
is fine.
you've already covered drug court.
Yeah.
We recently, it was
Yeah.
20 year we just had,
Yeah, right,
Yes.
which phenomenal turnout.
yeah.
So many people showed up.
Yeah.
So many people that
Yeah.
had graduated
Two
from it.
U.S. congressmen came.
Yeah.
and did-
Yes.
yeah.
Well-
Supreme Court, a Missouri Supreme Court
yeah, yeah,
judge
yeah.
was there.
And so that's a tremendous.
Accomplishment.
I used to be cynical about
Chuck told me the same thing. He wanted to do it
absolutely
first.
cynical
Yeah.
about it. And I was reluctantly, I was invited by Judge Replogle to come be on the team. I was invited by Ben Bergsters to come be on the team.
Right.
And I got there, and I am a convert
Mhm.
in that it works. I mean, I am a big believer in AA. I'm a big believer in freeway ministries. I'm a big believer. There's different tools for different jobs.
Right.
Not every tool is going to fit every person suffering from addiction.
Right.
And I'm very familiar with addiction. It's hit my family hard. I've lost friends, to drug addiction, to alcohol addiction. Drug court can work. It's not the tool for everybody, but it works, and it reduces recidivism. It breaks that cycle of people just coming back, and coming back. I want them to go there. I'll put people in jail, and I'm fairly severe about that. I mean, I will not let you wander around breaking the rules while you're on probation, the rules while you're on bond. But I tell people all the time, I don't want you in jail.
Mhm.
I do want you to present me with a better option. You can go to drug court. Perfect. Great. It presents them with resources they would never, ever, ever have access to, even if they have Medicaid. We're going to get you in with a doctor that is head and shoulders above most mental health professionals. Worked with a ton of mental health professionals. Dr. Lawson, head and shoulders above them. He gets it. He's a very clinical approach to these things. We get people out of the cycle of drug addiction. Now, it's Veterans Day coming up, I should say. It's Veterans Day. It has been my intention to start a veterans court. I bit off more than I could chew getting started, and I have put the pause button on it for about the past 6 months. Paperwork has all been put together and will be submitted to open a veterans court.
Cool.
It will serve Webster County. I've talked to the prosecutor in Dallas County, in Wright County, John Terrell, John Barker, and essentially the model for Missouri is that one county hosts and then serves
Yeah.
people from several counties
Yeah.
that can come and be a cohort. Is
So it would be the
veterans,
same
difference.
attendees, except they would need to be a veteran.
Veterans Court taps into you've got to have you get access to VA resources that they would never have in drug court. Drug court relies upon people being on Medicaid and things like that for their medical needs, but it's all provided by the state.
Mm-hmm.
The Veterans Court is folks that have honorable discharge. They often have more severe diagnoses than the people we can treat in drug court, to be honest. They have traumatic brain injuries. They have PTSD. They have very severe things that are co-occurring with their drug addiction, their alcohol addiction.
That could have been contributed or
they can be contributory,
from
or not
military.
necessarily, or not. It depends. The military has a serious culture of drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, it just does. It's a bigger problem in the military than it is out here. And that's not necessarily related to the job you do. It's also part of the culture.
Right.
Every picnic you go to, Budweiser shows up with a Clydesdale and free kegs. Like, it's part of the culture of what you are doing. It's a very male-dominated culture still. It is predominantly male everywhere you go, every base you're at. And so drinking...
Well, and it was escapism during the wars, let's face it.
It is, but I don't want to... I don't want to play into the notion that that's always what it is.
No.
These addictions come from the culture. They come from the stress. They come from the PTSD, but they're addictions, wherever they come from. Veterans, many of the people we deal with, we're running out of time, I can tell you.
Yeah, we're getting close.
The drug court, quite often these people that in drug court maybe never had a job. you're helping them. You're building from a base of almost nothing, right? And that's okay. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to get people to a spot where they can make appointments, they can get their medical needs, their mental health needs taken care of, handle their addiction like a person who is more organized and better prepared with more tools, right?
Right.
We're building a whole person so that we can get them out of the cycle of addiction. Veterans Court is different because you are capitalizing on the fact that these are people that are used to being able, there's camaraderie amongst veterans.
Yeah.
There's camaraderie. You remember what it is to have a cohort of people that you very much, I love my friends that I serve with. I still talk to them every week. I'm on the phone with one of my veteran buddies just catching up on life, politics, whatever. You tap into that and you bring them into a group. This is your new cohort. This is the group of people you're going to rely on. And we have VA services for you. And we're going to treat your co-occurring TBI, your PTSD, those things. You make use of the fact that they were once very proud of something.
Yeah.
They may not be proud of themselves anymore.
Sure.
It's Veterans Court is different. It is a whole different, it is the same goal. It's to break the cycle of addiction and to get people to better manage
But you
their
got a
lives.
brotherhood that you don't have in
But it's a
regular courts. Yeah.
Most of these people have not had, they have at one point in their life, they have been where they had to be
Yeah.
on the dot every time, early, working long shifts. You're not building from a base of zero.
Yeah. I see
You've
what
got
you
to get them to tap back into, you remember when you had to have your haircut and be where you were supposed to be and you could follow orders. It's a new protocol, new set of orders. I'm not the right judge for drug court. That's the right judge for drug court.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. She was there at the start, and what a perfect capstone to have her be the judge. But God gives us all different talents, builds different tools for different jobs, and I assure you I am the right judge for Veterans Court.
Absolutely.
And so that's
great
the
news.
timing
I hadn't
of it
heard
is,
about that. That's great news.
and again, this was something I wanted to do since the start, but I also didn't have the calendar space for it. You have to calendar regular settings for it. Well, you can't do that when you inherit a calendar that's already full.
Yeah.
So that's going to be this coming year. We are going to have a Veterans Court that's operational, that serves this community and
Something tells me the team that you have now. Something tells me the team that you have now will be the calendar will be easier to manage than
everybody here is hard workers.
Than the team that was there before. And that's nothing against the team that was before, but I just feel like you guys will be able to.
And we all work
business as best you can.
We all work well together. I mean, Chuck is such a phenomenal guy. Judge Repple is just such a phenomenal guy. Cynthia, I wanted her to be able to be.
And you actually worked out of her office for a while, right? Or no, you came into her building behind her.
Yeah, I rented, right?
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
She called me and said, "Hey, want to rent a building down here?" And I said, "Sure, I want to rent a building down there." And so she made that happen.
She's had some young attorneys with her along the way.
No, but there's a story here, Lyndall. You see, Lyndall, during law school, with a really good resume.
Oh, boy,
excellent credentials.
I fell into that.
Why
didn't you nudge me or something?
To Cynthia Black and said, "I would love to explore coming back to work in Marshfield, and would you consider hiring me? You had posted a job." And never got a call back. Now, mind you, the attorney that she hired.
Yes. I never saw that letter.
There you go.
Yes, I never saw
She's
that
going to die on that hill.
Yes, I am going to die on that hill. I never saw that letter. I never saw that letter.
Yes, I never worked for her because I couldn't get a call back.
I would have never passed up on you. I would have been foolish to pass up on your talent.
But I've had 2 years and I haven't had a day I didn't want to come to work yet. And I told Cynthia that the other day on her first day.
Yeah.
I've had 2 years and I haven't had a day where I didn't want to.
That's fantastic.
And that's no joke.
Yeah,
but
great.
The best day I've had so far at work is this week was a phenomenal week for a lot of reasons. We had jury trial, politics going on. Hands down, best day was her show up ready to work. I'm beyond thrilled to have her, and I guarantee you the practicing attorneys around here are beyond thrilled to have her. We have got a good judiciary right now. And it's hard as members of the public to see it, but So
Oh, I
you've been
think they
someplace where it isn't great.
I think they will. I mean,
It's hard to
the
know
word,
when you
the
don't have.
word, the word of mouth travel. I mean, people that know people that know people that know people. The word will get out. I mean, just like when you got elected. I mean,
Yep.
you got elected pretty overwhelmingly, and the word travels, and it'll do the same. As- how many letters were sent to the governor asking him to
Every
nominate
single
you?
practicing attorney,
Right.
along with
And that
every single
and
judge.
that should be told. That says
Yeah.
something. It should
Yeah.
be told.
That was
I'm
And
grateful.
probably most of the office holders in Webster County. I don't
Yep.
know that for sure, but I know some did. And it's just there's just that kind of thing has a way of working out.
You
and
get a
people
bad judge
surfacing.
on the bench.
Cream
it's
rises
awful.
to the top.
Yeah, and there's places I've been where it is just hard for litigants to get any justice. It's hard for the lawyers to practice law. It is not that way here.
Right.
I mean, it is a place where people can get their hearing and get it quick. We don't make you wait a year
Right.
to have a hearing. I'll set you something a couple of weeks out if it's an emergency.
Sure.
We take that serious. Cynthia is one of the hardest working people I know.
We got to just drive around the square at 8 o'clock at night.
I always did. I
We'll see
always
your
text her Sunday night, 7 or 8
Yeah.
o'clock.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No, she's been that way for 30 years.
or just pull up and beat my horn, and
Yeah.
usually because I was leaving my office, but
It's 2 o'clock, and I know you guys need to get to a parade.
we do. We have a
Thank
parade
you.
we need to
So,
attend.
thank you so much. This
Thank
has been
you.
really good. I knew it's exactly what I thought it would be. Very interesting and a good way to get to know both of you better. And we know that our court system in Webster County, after having Judge Reppel go on last week, is in extremely good hands, and we're
Well,
honored.
thank you.
Honored to have you here. And
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We'll
Yes,
we'll,
yes.
we'll have you again soon. You're a two-timer now, by the way. You know, you've
Yes,
been.
I didn't know you've been
It's
on.
only been 4 or 5. It's a
Rotary.
two-timer.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you and Stan Whitehurst and Champ
Yeah.
Heron and
I watched
Yeah.
Roy's
Yeah.
the other day,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're having a lot of fun with it. We're going to continue to do it, and just think, 20 or 30 years from now, we can pull these up,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to get a little bit of an idea of what our community was like and who
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
who in our community, and then we'll have those stories from those that are in their 9th decade or 10th or
Yes.
however that works, mathematicians. We'll have those stories as well, and
Yeah.
of course, in 20 or 30 years, they won't be around. So I mean, it's just a great tool that I'm proud to be a part of.
I think it's a
Yeah.
very
Thank
cool
you.
thing that you're doing.
Thank
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
It
Keep the cards
it's-
and letters coming. That's what
it's
keeps
right
it
up
going.
my alley.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
we'll see
Thank you.
y'all. Happy Veterans
Thank
Day.
you.
Thank you all for your service.